Hello everybody, this is Radishhead and welcome to another episode of Duelyst. So last time I sort of showed you what I was all about. We played some Abyssian. Today it's a Wednesday, so the Gauntlet is open. That's what we're going to be doing today. The Gauntlet is definitely my favourite mode in the game. For those of you that don't know, you effectively draft a deck made out of cards that are presented to you. You've got to make a choice of 3. And here is our first Gauntlet decision to make, which is actually the class that we're going to be playing as. So I've played a fair amount of Gauntlet. I think probably actually the majority of my gameplay so far in this game has been on Gauntlet mode. And I've noticed that Lyonar is pretty strong. Songhai is kind of difficult to play in Gauntlet because they require a lot of combos. And combos just do not work in Gauntlet because you can't guarantee that you're going to get the right cards. Abyssian is fairly average. It's not something that I'd pick highly because it's kind of difficult to get a Wraithling deck to work, for example, but they're okay. But Lyonar, in my opinion, is definitely the best of the 3, so I will be picking it for this first Gauntlet run. I quite like to sort of explain my thought processes as I go along, so this could be considered something of an educational video series in terms of Gauntlet. So if you're into that, then awesome. If not, then I will skip to the end of I'll put some sort of annotation so you can skip the draft if you don't want to hear my thoughts. Anyway, we start off with a legendary, which is quite exciting. We've got the choice of Dark Nemesis, which is a 7 mana 4/10, deal 4 damage to enemy general. So it grows. It's a little bit slow for me, perhaps. We've also got Grandmaster Zir, which I thought was going to be a ridiculously overpowered card, but it's not quite as strong as I thought it was. Basically, when your general dies, if this is on the board, then your general becomes this, which is quite nice because it has a 5 attack then over your general's 2 attack, and it also has 12 HP, so you could get an HP buff. Could mean the difference between a loss and a victory sometimes, but can't count on it. And we've also got Decimate, which is removal. Removal is always nice in Gauntlet because, well, again, you can't really count on it being there all the time. Destroy all minions that are not nearby a general. It's a spell that nobody really plays around because there's no point in playing around a legendary spell. And I'm just wondering, I think this first choice is very difficult, and it's clearly between Grandmaster Zir and Decimate. You know what, I'm going to pick Decimate. I'm going to go with my mind rather than my heart on this arena run. Gauntlet run, sorry. I have come from Hearthstone. Anyway, second choice is a little bit easier. As a general rule, you can't rely on getting the Mechazor out, although it's not as difficult as some people make it out to be. I made a really good Mechazor deck in Gauntlet once, and I managed to get Mechazor out 5 times, I think, which pretty much just ended the game because nobody can deal with Mechazor in Gauntlet mode. But Cannon of Mechazor, as it happens, is actually a pretty decent card on its own. It's just a 3 mana 2/2 ranged, it's fine. But it pales in comparison to Emerald Rejuvenator, which is, you know, decent stats, 4/4/4. It's not the best ever, but it's fine. But combined with a pretty decent opening gambit, plus 4 health to your general. Health actually means more in this game than in other card games. It's yeah, the fact that your general can actually hit opposing creatures all the time means that your health is more valuable to keep up, so it's a very good card. And Shield Oracle is fine. I think it's slightly underrated because just the ability to have a minion not take any damage on a turn is really nice because you can control when that happens. But I'm going to pick Emerald Rejuvenator for number 2. Okay, right, immediately I'm looking at Silverguard Knight. Why would you pick the Squire over the Knight? It makes no sense. Zeal plus 2 attack is a very nice bonus to an already nice card. War Surge is good too, but we don't really have any early game units, which is a deck where I'd put War Surges. So we'll pick the always good Silverguard Knight. Okay, Rust Crawler is a decent card. We do need some early game minions. They're very important to have, because if you don't have a play on turn 1, then you're immediately at quite a serious disadvantage in this mode. But having said that, Frostbone Naga is a personal favourite of mine. You're pretty much guaranteed, you're guaranteed to deal damage to something of yours, because it deals 2 to all the minions and generals around it. That includes yours. But the ability to deal damage to like a whole circle of things is too good to pass up, in my opinion. Dagger Kiri is just too slow. Celerity's nice on like a high HP card, but the damage just isn't high enough. Okay, so we've got Blood Tier Alchemist, or Blood Tier, probably Blood Tier. Deal 1 damage. It's just, the utility's nice. I prefer that over the Dragonbone Golem, which has massive stats, but I think Gauntlet mode is a bit too quick for that card to really come into play. And True Strike, again, nice removal. It's really between True Strike and Blood Tier Alchemist. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Blood Tier, so True Strike's utility tops it off for me. Okay, these cards are, well, these two are sort of related through the provoke. They're both cheap provokers. Swamp Entangler is useless, never pick it. It does not have any attack, so what's the point in being a provoker if you can't actually hit the thing back? Rock Pulverizer is not much better, but a 4 HP provoke is at least something that will stop 1 or 2 things in its tracks for a turn. Saber Spine Tiger is just nice. Sort of the rush is normally used to clear a pesky minion rather than attack the hero directly, but it can be used for that too. Okay, Lights Chaser. Normally this is just going to be a 2-mana 3/2, but sometimes you can get it to be a 2-mana 4/3 if you manage to get some heals going off, which is really nice. 2-mana 3/2 on its own is absolutely fine, so I quite often choose this card. Dragonlark, 1-mana 2/1 flying, it's fine, you can't really complain with that, but it doesn't really do enough for a card, in my opinion. So it's between Lights Chaser and Sunstone Bracers, which are probably the most underwhelming artifact in the game. Your general gains +1 attack. That can make the difference between you not killing a minion and killing one, which, does actually come up more often than you think. But for me, it just doesn't do enough. Also, we don't have any 2-mana minions, which is super important, so we'll grab the Light Chaser there. Oh, we've got an epic choice now. Immediately, Captain Hank Hart is rubbish. I don't know why he's 5 mana. Even if he was 4 mana, I don't think anyone would play him. Whenever this minion deals damage, heal it. Why would He's only ever going to be on full HP or 0. There's not going to be any healing involved. I'm sorry. Artifact Hunter is going to be a 4-mana 3/5 because I don't have any artifacts, which isn't great. Grail Master, though, I really like this card. It's kind of slow, but if you can keep it out for 1 turn, you've pretty much won, because you could just pump out a few units and suddenly your Grail Master has flying, ranged. It's just provoke whatever you want. It's perfect. I like it. It's quite an exciting card to play, in my opinion. Okay, I've always sort of covered Silverguard Squire. It just doesn't really do enough for its mana cost, although it is one of the better 1-drops, in my opinion. Sort of looked at Lights Chaser, so it's really between Lights Chaser and Suntide Maiden. I'm actually a really big fan of Suntide Maiden, because its ability, Restore to Full Health if it's next year general, actually does come up quite a lot. It's not difficult to get your Suntide Maiden to have the Zeal bonus, and that means it can clear minions and then just fully restore itself. It also combos with Lights Chaser. Having said that, we've got a lot of 4-mana cards already, and Lights Chaser probably more useful right now. Okay, another Captain Hank Hart. I'm not choosing it. Another Grail Master, though. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to start focusing on drafting more lower cost minions if I choose another Grailmaster. But what's this? We've got Skywind Glaives as an artifact. Friendly minions nearby your general gain +2 attack. For me it's just too situational. I'm just going to be constantly replacing that card. So I'm going to go for another Grailmaster. It doesn't hurt to have a little bit more late game. So okay, a rare. These are quite good actually. White Widow. I've never actually chosen this one in a gauntlet, but every gauntlet run I come across somebody with this card, and it really does cause me problems, because it's just a value over time. Every turn you just deal 2 damage to something, and it really does add up. So that's definitely a consideration. However, it is up against 2 other very strong cards. Arclight Sentinel has ridiculous utility. It can deal 2 damage to something. It can give your things +2 attack. It's just great. I love that card. And Lasting Judgment is just removal. It's basically Arclight Sentinel's ability as a spell, slightly stronger. But I place more value in my minions than my spells generally, so I'm going to click Arclight Sentinel for this one. Okay, we got 2 Mechazor cards. Interestingly, the 2 Mechazor cards which really are quite decent on their own. We've already covered Cannon. Sword of Mechazor is pretty much the same thing. 3 mana 3/3 is decent, and Frenzy is a really nice bonus on top of that, so that might be worth consideration. Lightbender though, it's always nice to have some Dispel in Arena, or a Gauntlet, sorry. In Gauntlet, you can never guarantee that you're going to be able to remove something with a spell, so having a minion that can dispel something, make it a little bit less scary, much appreciated in my books. 4 mana 3/3 is really bad stats though. I think I'm going to go for the sword. Generally I'm a bit more scared when I see the sword out, so I guess that's got to be worth something, right? We've covered all of these cards before. I'm going to go for the Silvergarter Knight. Great card. I pretty much always pick it actually if I see it. This is interesting. We've looked at Bloodtear Alchemist, which is probably the weakest of the 3. Dancing Blades is a great card. Let's just get that out of the way. Deal 3 damage to a minion in front of this one. It's just fantastic. It's got really good stats, 4/6, and it's got a built-in I don't know, True Strike +1. I can't think of a spell that does 3 damage directly. Phoenix Fire is a Songhai card, but that does 3 damage, which is worth 2 mana. So it's almost like a 3 mana 4/6 if you're really pushing it. But Divine Bond is also really good, but I don't really have that much to combo with it. If I had a couple of Ironcliff Guardians, I might consider the Divine Bond, because that combo is ridiculously strong. But I'm going to go with Dancing Blaze just because that's always good. Okay, we've got Crossbones, which is a standard 3 mana 3/3 with a nice effect. You're not going to see ranged minions that often in Gauntlet because they're generally not valued that highly. But you know, everyone likes Jaxi, and Jaxi. The Jaxi bot is a ranged unit, so Crossbones can sometimes get value. Prismatic Illusionist has awful stats, and you can't guarantee you're going to get spells, so that's no good. And for the same reason, Mana Forger isn't that good. Its stats are bad, and spells are not going to be the backbone of your deck, so we'll choose Crossbones here. Okay, wow, we've actually been offered quite a few Mechazor cards so far. Helm of Mechazor is actually okay. It's 1 mana 2/2. It's one of the better 1 mana cards out there in my opinion, because it can trade with a 2 mana 3/2, such as my Light Chasers. The question is, do I prefer it to Sword of Akrane? I'm not going to choose Beam Shock, it doesn't do enough. I've already got a decent amount of late game with the Grailmasters, and the Grailmasters synergize with me wanting to have lots of low cost minions. So I'm actually going to pick the Helm of Mechazor here. Might be a controversial decision, but I think it might be the right one. Okay, Fireblazer is a card I really like. 5 mana 5/5 provoke. 5 HP on a provoke is really nice, because it means that you can't get two, sort of like a general plus a 2 attack creature to clear it off. It takes a bit more effort than that, which is sort of what you want in your provoke creatures. Sundrop Elixir is actually better than it looks. In a lot of cards games you might think, oh, 5 health to a minion or general, really not great. And it's not like amazing, but your health is more valuable in this game than in a lot of other card games. So it might be worth a think. Rogue Warden is a really expensive ranged unit. It does a lot of damage, but at 3 HP you can't guarantee it's going to stay up long enough to actually do anything. So for that reason I'm going to pick Fire Blazer. Okay, we've got another True Strike, very nice removal. Windblade Adept is basically a 2 mana 4/3, because you can fairly regularly guarantee that it's going to be next to your general if you're playing correctly. And Wings of Paradise is also a really nice card. It's a flying unit, so you can sort of hide it in the on the edge of the map and then replace a card. Suddenly, swooping in with 5 damage. It's actually quite scary. But Windblade Adept is more consistent in my opinion. Also, I need more 2-cost cards. Right. The new one here is a Repulsor Beast, which has a really good ability, very useful. Push an enemy minion to any space on the battlefield. Its stats are weak, and I've already got quite a lot of 3-cost cards, but I don't have that much removal, so I am tempted to pick that over the Silverguard Squire. I think that's a pretty clear choice. Yeah, Repulsor Beast is just very useful to have. Okay, right, we've seen all of these cards before. I'm not picking the Prismatic Illusionist. Personally, we've already got 1 Crossbones. There's no way that somebody's going to have more than 1 ranged unit in their deck for me to ping off, and Emerald Rejuvenator is the better card anyway. Even if I didn't have a Crossbones already, I probably would have picked this one. So I'm glad to have that on the team. Ooh, this is a difficult choice. Skyrock Golem is not the difficult choice. It is a 2 mana 3/2, which is fine. I do need some more 2 mana cards, but Tempest, really nice. It's 2 damage to everything for 2 mana. Can't complain with that. Since you can control when the Tempest happens, you can make sure you're in a position to benefit from the sort of symmetrical ability. So it's not really symmetrical at all since you control when it happens. Dancing Blades again, really nice. We do have a decent amount of later game cards, but I think having another Dancing Blades can't hurt. Is this another legendary? It is! Are these any good though is the question, and the answer is not really. Rook is kind of like Railmaster in the way that if you have it on the board for more than a turn, it becomes really, really strong because the faction abilities are great. Basically, like for example, if they get the Magmar one, it becomes grow +5/+5, so it becomes like a 10/10 after a turn, and then it becomes a 15/15, or it can get like backstab 5, or like it's crazy. But the thing is, 7 mana 5/5 is just useless. Gauntlet is a place where you can't get your combos off, so you have to base it on the stats mainly, and that is not good enough. Merkblood's Devourer is, good. 3 mana 2/4 is okay. It's sort of got a higher HP, which you sort of want in a card of this sort of text, because you want it to stick around and get friendly minions to be buffed by it. Golem Vanquisher is good if you've got golems. Do I have golems? No. So I guess I'll pick the Merkblood. Alright, we got Beam Shock, which isn't what we want. We've also got Healing Mystic and Primus Fist, or Primus. I don't know. I think it's meant to be Latin. Primus? Primus Fist. Yeah, that sounds right. Primus Fist gives all friendly minions +1 attack nearby it, which is decent. Can't complain about that. It's the same stats as Healing Mystic, which restores 2 health to a minion or general. The question is, do I value 2 health restore more than giving nearby friendly minions +1 attack. And the question is, and the answer is, rather, I think I value the health gains a bit more, personally. I am glad to have another 2-mana creature though. Right, these cards are all bad, so I'm not happy to choose any of these. However, having said that, Swamp Entangler is the worst of the 3, because it doesn't do anything. And I think Ghost Lynx is the best. It's got really bad stats. It's got like 2 less health than it should do, but it does have like a tiny little bit of utility in its ability. So I guess I'll pick it, but I'm not happy about it. It also synergizes with Grail Masters. +3 health on a minion doesn't do enough in a card to justify its presence in Gauntlet. So between Silverguard Squire and Ephemeral Shroud, I'm going to pick the Shroud because Dispel is really nice to have. We didn't actually pick that Dispel card earlier. Okay, we've got 2 ranged units. Veil Hunter is not high enough damage to be worth considering. If it was a 2-1, then maybe, but as a 1-2, I don't think so. Fire Spitter is decent. It's not going to stick around very long, but if you can protect it with a unit in front of it, then you know, it can ping off a couple of others. Young Flame Wing, I don't know. It's got 3 HP for 4 mana, which is more than Fire Spitter, but as a flying unit rather than ranged, it's actually going to be sort of getting in the combat, and that definitely won't survive an attack. So I'm going to pick Fire Spitter. It's okay. Aha! I'm glad to see this card. I really like Azurite Lion. It's just a really solid 2-mana 2/3 that can act twice. It's got a lot of utility behind it. You can do lots of things with it. Moor has a lot of attack for a 1 mana creature, but that's about it. Helm of Mechazor is, you know, okay, as we've said earlier, but Azurite Lion is definitely the pick here. And suddenly our mana curve is actually looking pretty decent. Ah, okay, 3 spells. We've got True Strike, which is, you know, fine. It's cheap damage. Divine Bond is good if you've got things to combo with it, which we actually do have a few decent sort of high health minions to put on it, but Martyrdom is effectively 2 mana destroy a minion, because the fact that its health is restored to its general rarely matters in a battle. All you want is that minion to be gone, so I'm really happy to pick up that spell. Okay, Saberspine Tiger is decent, but I'm not that excited by it compared to Bright Moss Golem, which has amazing stats for its mana cost. Like 4 attack is all you really need. Any more than that is often overkill, and 9 HP means it's going to be trading for a lot of stuff. It's quite a slow card though. We do have a few 5s, so it might be worth thinking about the Divine Bond. Incidentally, if I already had a Bright Moss Golem in the deck, I definitely would have picked Divine Bond, because that would make it a like an 8 mana, a 13/9, which is just ridiculous. I think I might pick the Bright Moss Golem, but maybe I should pick the Divine Bond. I think Divine Bonds just has more utility. I'm going to go for it. Hopefully I'll get a card and more cards that synergize with it. Okay, we've got Skywind Glaives again. Really not that exciting. Alcuin Lawemaster put a copy of the most recently cast spell into your action bar, so at least you can control what spell it is, and that's actually quite a good card to have. But Holy Immolation, you've got to have those board clears, and this is a really nice board clear. The restore 4 health to a friendly minion doesn't often come into play, to be honest, but deal 4 damage to enemies around it, really nice. Gonna pick that one up. And that is it. That is the Gauntlet deck that we've created. I'm pretty happy with it. Its curve is definitely looking quite nice. We've got 2 Light Chasers, Windblade Adept, Mystic, and Azurite Lion are the ones I'm really going to be hoping to play on turn 1. Plus the Helm of Mechazor is a nice little bonus. It's got some removal, Martyrdom, True Strike. Decimator's a really interesting one. I'm going to have to remember I've got that. And Holy Immolation. And for the late game, we got these 2 Grail Masters, which have good stats, but they also make sure that if I draw these early game cards towards the end, they actually help me out by buffing Grail Master, which is nice. And Emerald Rejuvenator for a bit of longevity, never hurt anyone. Silverguard Knights and Fire Blazers for Provoke. Just a lot of general utility. I like this deck. I predict this deck... I don't see why we can't go 7 wins.